Thank you so very much for being back with us, and let's take a look at 2025 in review. This is still Enterprise Television, and straight to our main conversation for today, where we have it. There is absolutely no gainsaying, ladies and gentlemen, that the year 2025 delivered more drama than anyone bargained for, a cocktail of chaos, crisis, and calculated politics.
Well, that's true. From President Tinubu's aggressive fiscal and monetary policies that deepened household pressures as a result of his subsidy removals, Forex liberalization, which christened reform, to a worsening security crisis where Boko Haram and ISWAP revenged the northeast and northwest with kidnappings and carnage.
The political theater was no less gripping. The Wike and Fubara feud tore Rivers State apart, while Nnamdi Kanu's prolonged trial and eventual life sentence was a national flashpoint. Then came the unthinkable, the U.S. military strikes on Nigerian soil, a shattering illusion of sovereignty and a staring global concern. Now, amid natural disasters and economic fatigue and a growing disconnect between power and people, 2025 etched itself into Nigeria's political memory as a year of uneasy turning point. And now, as we enter 2026, ladies and gentlemen, the question remains, will Nigeria find its balance, or will the chaos continue? But for now, let's review 2025. We still have with us Barrister Vance Ofeli, Pastor Wenga, and also Echo, John and Nicholas. And right here in our studios is Tochukwu Isukama. Thank you so very much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Yes, so we have a litany of interesting events that have happened in Nigeria, and I do not know if we should do an inverted pyramid here. Inverted pyramid, which means hopefully we can start from the now and now.
That's the US, right?
Yes, start from now and now move on to January,
Okay.
or possibly we might just maybe start from January up until now. But let's possibly, if it's okay, let's start with where do you start?
Should
from?
we start
January.
from? Should we start from the
January.
water?
No, let's start with
January.
from January
Okay, from the top.
2025. Yes. So on 18th of January, a Suleja fuel tanker explosion. A major fuel tanker crashed, exploded near Suleja in Niger State, killing over 100 people and injuring dozens, underscoring ongoing road safety challenges. I'd love to start with you, Pastor Benga. This is more like a transition from the AJ's case, and from January it's been this way. Fuel tanker explosion. It's like a perennial matter with us in Nigeria, and it's becoming normal to Nigerians and to Nigeria as a country. Can we ever find a solution where haulage, logistics is done through the railway rather than our roads that is just not even good for lots of those heavy duty vehicles? What's your take, Pastor?
Are you still there?
Is Pastor still here with us? All right, if we hope he would join us. Barrister, I'd love you to have your say on this, please. What's your take on this, please?
Yeah, is Pastor Wenga back?
I don't think we're still. Hopefully, we can connect him back. I think he's.
Is it okay? Should I go on?
Yes, please go on, please.
Yes. This issue of tanker explosion and the rest of that is the perfect indication to the fact that road transportation of PMS is not safe. Road transportation of PMS is not safe. All over the world, PMS is not transported on the road because of the likelihood of explosion and accidents. It's just in Africa here that you have that, Nigeria, Cotonou, and all these small countries around the sub-Saharan Africa. You are supposed to transport PMS through the pipelines, okay? That is safe. Or you transport it through the sea, okay? Which is safer. In a country where you have over 200 million people, and most times the roads are bad and there are congestions. and the people are perennially poor, okay, you transport PMS through the road. When there's an accident and the content is gushing out, people assemble themselves there to go and scoop PMS, scoop fuel. And at the end of the day, they get engulfed in fire. Okay, as much as you will say, because there are precedents and examples of this accident that have happened in the past where people got roasted or people got, inflamed, that people should know that they should not go close to all issues like that. But you will still find them there because of their situation. Sometimes you cannot excuse it. Sometimes we could say that poverty is playing a role. But why are they poor? They are in a state where you have a governor that is not accountable to them. Okay, they are in a country where you have a president, you have ministers, you have national assembly members, you have a judicial system that's not accountable to them. So this whole thing is a value chain. It's all tied up together to the effect that we need to redefine transportation in Nigeria. First, trucking PMS should stop. It should stop. Okay? Let's fix our railways. Let's fix our waterways. We have options. Let's fix the pipelines so that we can transport these things. Okay, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to manage a country. It's not rocket science. So we need to do it. And ultimately, let's fix our roads, which is much more important and very critical.
Let's have Benga have his say here. Pastor, what's your take on this regular perennial fuel tanker explosions that we have recorded over the years? Of course, in January 18th, we had that in Suleja, and we still have issues like that. Is it a systemic problem? Because other parts of the world, they still truck fuel. So it's not like ours is different. Is this a systemic problem on the part of Nigeria, or what exactly is the issue so we can stop this and more in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. The problem we have is a greed problem. Greed problem. I just came into Lagos this morning from Epe, and if you are conversant with that road, you will know that there is a part of that road that is a single lane. And if you know the number of trucks, tankers that are coming in through Epe into Dangote refineries into Lagos, you will marvel. 2 nights ago, when we went out to go and eat, do you know that we were stopped in the middle of many trucks because on that slim road on the bridge there was an accident, a ghastly accident on that just 2 nights ago, and the whole Epe town was almost shut down. So the tanker operators are short-sighted. If they are not short-sighted, the funds in their hands, the money they have, and the access they have to loans is enough to have railway system. The people who operate railway system in UK, for example, is the cartel. They have a name. I won't mention the name on air. So also, if you call yourself a cartel of tanker operators, there's nothing stopping you from graduating from running tankers to railway system. It will give them more profit. It will give us safety and preservation of both humans and nature. But because of greed and because of lack of foresight, they are short-sighted. They just want to make money now, irrespective of what is damaged and what is being damaged and what is damaging. So it is time. Can you imagine in the 60s, in the 70s, ask people who stood outside Lagos, who stood in the north, different part of the country. There were railway system, functional one every time. But these days, what do we have?
I think we lost Pastor Benga there. We hope that connection will resume so we can have his final thoughts on that. Tochukwu,
Yes.
what's your take on this? I would love you to take us a little back a memory lane. What used to be before, in the 60s, in the 70s, we had little to none of these fuel tank explosions. What's happening to democracy today?
To democracy.
Yeah, because It's becoming more like a democratic
The thing is,
issue.
even in the 40s and 50s
Yes.
and 60s, our rail lines functioned. They were functional and they were effective. Then you would have expected that by this time the rail lines would have been upgraded and expanded. But ironically, the rail line atrophied, the rail lines dwindled, and next to nothing is transported through the rail line. A factor was that during the war, there was a lot of need to move soldiers, their food. You have I think Nigeria had 250,000 soldiers.
Oh, okay.
And if they were involved in combat, a soldier in combat will not feed himself. So you have to buy nama to feed him, rice, gari. So think of the amount of millions of tons of food soldiers will eat. And their uniform, their boots, guns, ammunitions. And many of those, some of the places they were fighting were off the rail line. So a number of transporters emerged. The war brought a lot of wealthy people, emergency contractors, very powerful transporters. They emerged and started opposing the rail line.
Okay.
So instead of keeping up the rail line, upgrading the rail line, the transporters started subverting the rail lines. And it continued, up to what it is now. There's not been a turnaround because the same very powerful interests, tanker owners, trailer owners and all that, are still very powerful. So it's an issue of corruption, it's an issue of misplaced values, and just an issue of greed and lack of will on the part of the government to take decisive actions. They may not be able to because those subverting the rail lines are their friends, partners, and sometimes themselves. They're all tied together. So that's why we are where we are. But then if you have to transport PMS, as Evans called it, by road, there are some standards you can set. Not that it will become as efficient as the rail lines, but at least you reduce the risk of accidents. You reduce accidents. And then also another factor is the scooping of petrol, product, PMS, by say because they are poor. Poverty is a factor, but then it's because they are ignorant and they are suicidal. You have to be suicidal.
Suicide.
Yes. You have to be suicidal to go scooping fuel from a tanker. Fuel is spilling. Anything can spark. Anything, even a phone, just your cell phone, and the government has not regulated them. Normally, these tankers will fall and they might scoop fuel for 1 hour. Policemen don't pass by there. FRC can't regulate them. Soldiers can't stop them. So there's a moral and ethical collapse in the country. Everything has gone totally wrong. And that's why we are where we are. So such accidents can be limited, not totally avoided, as long as the trucks carry them by road. It can be totally avoided, but it can be limited if those that in power care. They don't care. And in the past, interestingly, Nigerian Medical Association protested. The law or the Bar Association protested. Student unions protested. They protested during colonial era. They protested under military rule. But now we are in a democracy and nobody is protesting. So that's the irony, that is the paradox.
Because that was why I asked if it was an issue of democracy, because we seem not to be getting it right.
Nigeria is not a democracy.
But then again, you just explained something like some of the things that happened, in the 70s, just like when he asked you, like we're having the rails were good, they were in good conditions, not until when these people came and all of that. But sir, do you think, how can we go back to that time? How can things be done properly, instead of having constant tank explosion?
It's leadership. It's the same thing. There was a time in Nigeria where there was little or no crime. The policemen maintained law and order with their batons, not guns. Police didn't carry guns. There was a time Nigerian universities were among the best in the world, especially University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital. So how do we go back to that? There was a time the quality of food and housing in the universities were spectacular, okay? And they paid next to nothing in the 70s. Yakubu Gowon brought in a lot of money, a lot of subsidies, subventions to the universities, money for research, money to make accommodation comfortable for students, good food. How do we go back there? Leadership. Chinua Achebe once wrote, the problem of Nigeria is simply a problem of leadership. These days we have the worst leaders that we've ever had. Leaders that are out to make money, steal money, tear down the system, and do not care. Like I once said, in the past we had corruption, but these days we don't have corruption anymore. It's piratical depredation. We talked about it one day. Yes, it's piratical depredation. That's what we have. So we can't go back to the past unless the quality of our leaders changes. And how does it change? Another litany of things that will be done. Credible elections. We have credible elections in Nigeria.
Well,
we don't.
We're still debating.
It's not debated. There's no credible election.
So I do not know if our guests have joined us yet. The last time we were having Pastor Gbenga, who was speaking to this issue, before we had that little communication glitch there. I do not know if they've joined us. All right, so while we wait for them to join us, and both Barrister Vansufeli and Echo John Nicholas to join us, I love to believe it's a bit of a glitch there. Hopefully they would. And all right, I think we have Barrister Vansufeli and John Nicholas Echo. Hopefully Pastor Gbenga would join us. Mr. Nicholas, I'd love you to have your say on this. The guest we have here, Tochukwu, said that all the issues we have before now were as a result of greed and selfishness on the part of some Nigerians who would rather prefer that trucking is the best bet rather than railways. What's your take on this, please?
Thank you very much. Number one is to say that the social reality of people will always determine their social consciousness. And that is that it is your living conditions that determine your consciousness, how you see things, how you do your things, and how you live. The guest at the studio did mention in the 70s. But what he didn't add is the fact that in the 70s, in the 60s, we have policies and programs of the government that addresses the needs of the people, the needs of the majority, as against the profit motive or the greed of a few. As at that time, it was that welfareist policies and program of the government, the pro-people government, the pro-people policies of the government that led to investment in railway, in shipping, in transportation. I mean, it is transportation, both rail, air, water. Government invested heavily. It was that era agriculture became the mainstay of the economy. And as you are aware, that even in the southwest here, under the Awolowo's government, agricultural proceeds were used to develop society through free education, investment infrastructure, and things like that. All the things that those government, those pro-people's program invested in that era, all those things today have been privatized. They have been commercialized. Those agencies, is it the shipping, is it the electricity agents, name them, they have been sold out. Invest in government and their friends in the private sector. So today, the reigning philosophy of government is profit, is not need of the people. That explains today you hear both federal, state, and local government say that government should have business. that business should be done by private sectors. And when private sector do business, the kernel of private sector be doing business, the cruise, the motive, creating profits, not meeting the needs of the people. And that explains why truck transport fuel now, because it's cheaper. They make more profit through trucking on the road as against transporting it through railway or through we used to have pipeline as managed by the Nigerian pipeline, whatever company, I can't recall now, under the NNPC. It used to be a subsidiary in the NNPC, company or whatever name they call them. Those pipelines, where are they? Those pipelines are supposed to take fuel from the source down to the various cities. In those cities, be it in Ibadan, name them, you have all those depots where the pipeline will take the fuel to, and the truck will just take it and supply within that environment. So it doesn't need to travel far and things like that. But today they have destroyed all those pipelines. They have destroyed everything. Where is still available? They've sold it to themselves and monetized it so that we can't even transport and fuel through those pipelines other than using it and transporting it through the road because they make more profit on it.
All right.
So to go back to that era, that Eldorado, so to speak, quote and unquote, there is a need for a reversal of all policies of the government. The government needs to invest massively in agriculture, in
All right.
in order to ensure that the needs of the people are met. If there is fuel tanker today that collapses or have an accident and fuel spills, as we are talking today, people cook food. They don't mind whether the fuel is going to explode and burn all of them. Because why? Their social reality of poverty, of penury, of desperation, of hopelessness defines their life.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Less of what you say, as long as they provide for their needs, they need to survive. Answer, survivor, food.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah. So while we chew on that particular story, let's take a look at another matter. And now let's move to March of 2025.
Okay.
We remember on the 18th of March 2025, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State. He said, "I proclaim a state of emergency in Rivers State." I love your stay, by Stefan Sufeli. We can vividly still remember that incident. It was a nightmare to lots of Nigerians who watched because of the reasons for declaring the state of emergency was very superficial. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, being who he is, it was easy for him. What's your take on this? Do you think our president regrets that action? Is it ever possible to have him repeat that again?
He didn't regret it. He didn't regret it. It was the state of emergency that turned out. That is what he used to put fear in governors. That made all of them to start to decamp to APC. That's that wrong. That very illegal act. That act itself shaped the political structure of 2025 in Nigeria. Okay, it was the biggest story as far as I'm concerned in 2025. The state of emergency and how it influenced the polity to the point where governors are now shivering, where governors now start making statements like, we want to align with the center. Okay? The moment, whilst the state of emergency was ongoing, some of them defected. After the state of emergency, others joined them from Akwa Ibom State to Delta State to
Enugu State.
Yes, Enugu State and all over. You can see that one act of illegality of the president shook the political stratosphere and then turned the entire political temperature into a very hot one for governors. Who now felt that if they don't align with the president, there's a likelihood and a tendency that they may be replaced with an administrator. It sent a shockwave, okay? And why we went on the street to condemn that. The president was not perturbed. The Attorney General of the Federation even came out to twist the law to say that the president was in order, when he was supposed to be the one to advise the president on the rule of law and the rest of that. And the administrator himself, had to make good use of the windfall that came on him. After his tenure, he was asking the court to get an order not to probe him. Okay? In fact, they had to set up a 21-member at the National Assembly to watch what he was doing, because he became reckless too, and all that. So that act got to the PDP governors. 11 of them went to court on it. The court did not deliver judgment on the issue, just not too long ago. It's not up to 1 month that the court delivered judgment. 3 weeks ago that the court delivered judgment on that matter, and then gave the president a boost. That because the law did not state what extraordinary measure means. Okay, therefore, and all that. In Pakistan, in India, their constitution allowed for it. Our constitution did not give further instruction. So the Supreme Court went about it in a way that painted a picture as though they were scared to make the express pronouncement that the president had no right under the law. Our law did not give the president such powers. And the exercise of such power was wrong. The Supreme Court went about romancing the issue in a way that made it look like some people went into the interpretation of the law, and they said that the Supreme Court adopted a pragmatic approach. They started inventing new edges of law, a pragmatic approach. There's nothing. It's not in our rule book that pragmatism is not the law. The letters of the laws are clear. It has to be applied. So just because you don't want to offend the president or the executive, then you are now turning things around. So you can see the effect. You can see how the state of emergency affected both the entire political stratosphere, the National Assembly itself, that is supposed to give it an oversight. They rubber stamped it. So they committed their own sin by rubber stamping it. It moved from there to the executive itself that stood by it. Then from there, the 11 governors took it to the judiciary for review. The judiciary did their review and committed their own sin. Okay. It fell on the people's head. The people went to the streets, to the court of public opinion, divided by tribalism, and by all kinds of interests. Okay, so at the end of the day, we are all swooped into a porridge of discord. That is why they say, as leaders, you should be careful of your actions. That singular action created a problem for the entire 3 arms of government, including the people they govern, and democracy itself, and brought democracy to its knees. Democracy laid there gasping for breath until this day.
While we still chew on that, Tochukwu, I'd love you to have you say on still the state of emergency issue. History has always given us different types of leaders, the likes of Joseph Stalin, the likes of Nicola Ceausescu and Maduro, and so many other leaders.
Adolf Hitler.
Yes, who have found ways to hold on to power. Mm-hmm. They've totally destroyed the arms of government. In Nigeria, for example, we do not know if the legislature and the judiciary still exist, because everything comes from the executive at this point. So is this normal for us as humans to keep having people like this, and how can we possibly avert this and have a civil society where rule of law is obeyed?
Well, interestingly, Adolf Hitler made it very clear that he did not believe in democracy. Many Germans supported him because they didn't like democracy. The Germans want strong leadership. They want authoritarianism. They want things that are defined and clear, not these party rules and make these rules. Another one will do this. To them, it's too unsteady, too unbalancing. And then Stalin also was a communist, and communism has no room for democracy. So the dilemma is when you say this is a democracy, and the presidents run for office saying, I am a Democrat, elect me, I'll obey the laws of the land, I'll respect the division of power, the House, the executive, and the judiciary. And then he comes and he betrays all these promises. That's where we have serious problems. And we had a similar case in the past where personal interest, where political ambition took precedence over the public good. Tafawa Balewa had declared a state of emergency in the western region over a trivial issue, the breaking of a maze.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, there were more serious issues happening. Most serious issues that demanded concern around the nation, especially in the West, but he ignored them and then declared this state of emergency. And then it was the beginning of some kind of political, it spiraled into something nobody foresee and nobody could control. So in the case of Fubara, it was not the government, federal government, I'm not a lawyer, but at least I know that the federal government retains some kind of control over state governments. And in some very serious cases where the situation demands it, the federal government can impose a state of emergency on a state. But the situation in Rivers State did not demand a state of emergency. Tinubu, our president, is a master political strategist. And Tinubu, our president, has one preoccupation. How do I get re-elected in 2007? So as the 27. So as the Rivers State crisis unfolded, that was his number one concern. And like I once said in an earlier TV station, those early days, that Tinubu was not doing all this to strengthen Wike, because if Wike wins in Rivers State, you empower him and you embolden him, and his next move will be to challenge someone for the presidency. So that essentially all this on the surface may seem like, oh, Wike is Tinubu's political power. This will empower Wike. No, ultimately, Tinubu will weaken Wike for his own political survival. And that's what is beginning to show. Fubara is turned to APC and is working very hard to sign the line. Wike in his intemperance, Wike in his lack of self-control is trying to position himself right. But ultimately, the problem in Nigeria is that we do not subordinate our political interests, economic interest to the public good. Okay. So it was very bad, but it reduced, it weakened democracy, intimidated the governors. The judiciary has always been, for a while now, in Tinubu's pocket. So it reinforced Tinubu's control over the judiciary. In Nigeria, it edged Nigeria closer and closer to a dictatorship.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me point this same question to Eko Nicholas. What's your take on Tinubu, declaring state of emergency in Rivers State? Let's hear your take on this issue too.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, very well. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. I think that the Fubara Tinubu declaration of emergency itself actually shows the limit of bourgeois democracy in all its ramifications. And I think that it will not be correct to say that communism is not, there's no democracy in communism. If there is not, if there is anything democracy, communism is the highest expression of democracy, of
Wow.
democratic setting.
I've never had that.
And what was practiced in the USSR under Joseph Stalin after the death of Lenin and the expulsion of Leon Trotsky in USSR was not communism. It was a skilled, deformed workers' state. And that in itself also gave rise to the rise of Adolf Hitler in Germany and the persecution of the Jewish. And let me just rest that here. But the point I want to make is this, just as I've said earlier, as long as the poor majority, the workers' majority, don't have their own political alternative, their own political enemy, their own political party that represent their yearnings and aspiration through a program and policies that address their needs directly, all these kind of shenanigans will continue to take place. It's not going to end. It will not end with Fubara. It didn't end with Dariye and Obasanjo, or with Obasanjo and what's his name, Ladoja, or with Obasanjo and Fayoshe. It didn't end there. It's going to continue. And the reason is simple. It's about their interest. You see, as they say, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Tinubu has become a tyrant, and it's not a coincidence. The point is this: it's not just in case of Fubara and Rivers. Even today, I mean, the commentator in the studio said that in the past we used to have protests of students who protested against the Anglo-Saxon, whatever in the 50s, when the British wanted to bring their troops into Nigeria, that the students protested then. Students protest, workers, they have always been protesting. But today now, what happened under Tinubu? Protests have been criminalized. Democratic rights has been eroded. People can hardly, talk. Journalists disappear. Journalists are arrested. They are persecuted under different kind of law, including the cyber, cyber crime law, as they call it. Here you get it. The end bad governance protest. Michael Leni and co were arrested under Trump up, charges of terrorism and the likes of them. Of course, the Federal High Court judge has squashed that, has dismissed that case now. But the point I'm making is this: it's not that people don't want to protest. People want to protest, but all these rights, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and the likes of them, they have been eroded by this present government. The reason of action, and that is because the government want to drive down his anti-policies on the throat of the mass of the people. Fubara don't represent the interest of the mass majority of the people of Rivers, and Tinubu himself does not represent the yearning as an aspiration of the mass majority of workers and poor people. And that was why when Fubara was removed, there was no protest, quote unquote, of ordinary people. If that government has represented the mass of people through programs and policies, through people's programs and policies in education, in health, that has eliminated their life, that has lifted them from poverty, and they begin to see that government as their own, you can be sure that people would have had this way. And as the barrister has said, it's a premeditated act because Tinubu wanted to reap bountifully from that river, and he has actually harvested it. Today now people are talking of poverty and Christians, all for his selfish and the interest of the protecting and winning elections in 2027. And don't get me wrong, 2022, Tinubu is going to win, except there is a mass movement to resist him. Okay, no problem.
All right.
But the point is, thank you very much. The point is this: with the way the government is going, except the mass of the people under the NSC, TUC, and the civil society, organize the people mobilize them to the street to begin to demand
Where are
who
the civil
governance of
societies?
all
Where
these
is the labor movement? Babangida destroyed all those things.
All right. All right. So thank you so very much, Mr. Nicholas. But let's move to other matters. In May, 24th of May 2025, we had the Mokwa flood disaster in Niger State that claimed over 1,000 Nigerians as a result of rains, but lots of them were fingered to collapse of the lots of things actually. Lots of things were put in place by administrations over the years. Barrister, what's your take on the Mokwa flood disaster? Do you think we have learned any lessons from that and hopefully in the future avert similar cases?
We have not learned any lesson. You see, Nigeria has a very serious ecological problem, and people don't take it serious, especially the government. The government have made an attempt to create what they call ecological funds for states. Some states that have very low topography get higher than others. Some states that are prone to such natural disaster have. So you see, the reason we don't take it serious is because we don't have serious natural disaster. If we have serious natural disaster and we have serious environmental issues, we will take these things very serious. Okay, but today you can see that the flood is wrought serious damage, collateral damage every year. Every year there's this flood. There's this what they call a reservoir in Cameroon. When it gets filled up in the middle of between May and June. May, June, and July, when the water is released, it flows into the Nigerian part of it. And over the years, the Nigerian government have not done anything to wedge or to see how this can be channeled in a way that will not affect us. That one is on standby anytime it is released. The other one is the flood-prone areas and states where rainfall alone, without any other attenuating issue like dams, release of dam water and other, rainfall alone is capable of doing this level of damage. And we're not taking these ecological issues very, very serious. Okay? By now, I would have thought that the Nigerian government would have brought in experts to research on these things and provide solution as to what to do every year when it gets to that period. There was a time the federal government said all those who are in those areas should evacuate. Evacuate to where? Okay, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency used to give weather reports, climate reports, and alerts on flood, on rainfall, and all that. But when they make all those projections and all that, they simply tell, prospective victims to evacuate. To evacuate to where? Okay, are there camps? Are there IDPs for these persons who are supposed to evacuate? Where are they going to evacuate to? And the rest of that. So we don't spend government money on the people in Nigeria. We spend it on the very few, less than 1% of us. And that is why this less than 1% of us are very wealthy at the expense of the poverty of the large majority of the people. So, who's going to bear the cat here? We must do something about it. Apart from the fact that there's also cases of boat capsize in rivers and the rest of that. That's another disaster area, which is also close to flooding. And every year we used to have that capsize. They used to have this flooding. We used to have a lot of issues. And they are in the same spots every year, killing people, washing away, houses the same year every time. So, and nothing is done about it. The federal government is not doing about it. The states are not doing anything about it. But you have ecological funds every year. You have constituency allowance every year for the lawmakers that are from those constituencies, and nothing is done. So Nigeria is just a sorry case. It's a case of abdicated responsibility. It's a case where leaders are in dereliction of their duties, and they will get away with it.
abdicated responsibility at this point. But Tochukwu, let's speak to climate change. Now, these are contributors,
Of course.
to some of the things that we have. It's actually surprising that in December we still have a little bit of rainfall here and there, which is really strange to us. Yeah. So how do we, especially from a third world perspective, help ourselves when the climate does not understand that we are third world?
Is it the third world excuse I do not buy, because our leaders buy the best cars made in Japan and Europe and America, and they don't say we are third world. We are not entitled to this kind of luxury. They steal money and bank them in the US, luxuriating the best hotels in the world. They say no. They don't say let's keep a profile or we are third world. But when it comes to responsibility, oh, we are third world. We don't have maintenance culture. Maintenance culture will drop from above. You have to uphold your responsibilities, whether you're third world or not. If you want to be a part of this world, be a part of this world. If you don't want to be a part of this world, then exit. Yes, it's simple. And yeah, the weather is changing, depletion of the ozone layer and all that. So it's a global problem, but global problems, when they get to Nigeria, get compounded because of the inherent problems of warped value system, greed, corruption, indifference, and lack of accountability. So you see that in the what do they call them? Tactica, where that there was always snowed all over. The snows remain for years and decades and centuries. Now the snows in some areas are beginning to melt. The temperature of the world, global temperature, is getting higher. 1 inch, what do they call centigrades? Yeah, centigrade. You call Nigeria is called centigrades. Okay, 1 centigrade, 2 centigrade, 3 centigrades may not mean much or may not seem like much. But when you think of the volume, the volume of water in the world, and the expansion, water expands with heat. So this expansion of 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees in relation to the volume of water is excessive. Yeah, so it can submerge a whole city, a whole country. So something needs to be done on a global level, but in our third world enclave called Nigeria, we also need to do something, but nobody is doing much because we are consumed by our greed. I was listening to a man like Kuda, is it Kuka or Kuda? Bishop Kuka, who was on the front line. He was restlessly, relentlessly, vehemently denouncing Fulani headsmen, the genocide against Christians. But he was given an appointment. And overnight, the man said, no, there's no genocide against Christians in Nigeria. So see our mentality. We are not honorable people. We don't say things we mean, or we say things out of interest. What am I getting from it? We saw that during the P2B elections. Many of the priests that talked about Obi winning. And when Obi did not win because it was supposedly rigged out, they all backed off. They all started twisting the fact, to align with the wishes and whims and caprices of the powers that be. So we need to do so much. It's not my forte, it's not my area of expertise. I don't know what exactly should be done, but our leaders need to sit up. Even in a place like Lagos, you see there's flooding all the time. And what's the cause of the flooding in Lagos? Drainage systems are clogged up. The government you see the flood, the government empathizes, the government sympathizes, he visits the flood scene, he talks his political talk, and it happens the next year, Why can't we solve some of these basic problems? So it's a global thing plus the Nigerian factor.
All right.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. So let's hear from you, Mr. Eko Nicholas. What's your take on the Mopa flood disaster that happened in Niger State.
And also climate change as a farmer. It's always believed that every farmer needs some praise for rain.
Yeah.
But when the rain becomes too much,
Excessive.
they rescind on their prayers.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this, Mr. Coach John Nicholas?
You see, what is this? On this
We can barely hear you.
All right, so we can barely hear you right now. Your line is quite shaky, and we hope that you would get to us, because it's very important that we hear your thought on this, knowing you're a stakeholder, a major stakeholder to food.
Hello,
Yes, I think we can hear you better now. So, speak up, please, if you can. All right. So while we wait for Mr. John Nicholas to have his say, I would love you to, of course, go back to that particular story, if you may. But for the want of time, let's just move straight to 13th and the 14th of June. That's the Yelwata massacre in Benue State. Gunmen attacked Christian villagers in Yelwata, killing around 100 to 200 people and displacing thousands, marking one of 2025's deadliest attacks. Barrister, this had gotten us to where the United States had come to intervene from June. It started in June as a result of the massacre. It dived to President Donald Trump coming to do what he wants to do. So what's your take on this? Do you think that the intervention of the United States must have ended or given succor to those who lost their loved ones during the Yelwata massacre? Barrister, are you there?
Hello. Oh, yeah. I went off. I didn't get the question. What's the question again?
Yes. So the question is on the Yelwata massacre on 13th to 14th of June, and you know that was what led to the congressman coming to Benue, saw what happened there, and equally the advice he gave to Donald Trump that had resulted to the United States coming to Nigeria. So what's your take on all of this? Do you think that those that lost their loved ones would find succor, especially with what Donald Trump had done in Nigeria most recently?
Yes. They are all crying for justice, okay? Even though justice isn't going to bring back their loved ones, but in a way, it will ameliorate the anguish and the grief and the misery that this has caused them. The Yelwata's case was a turning point in the issue of terrorism in Nigeria that led to the United States incursion or intervention into the matter under reference. And because after the Yelwata case, a lot of people went international. Okay, persons of interest, Christian advocates across Nigeria, even though some persons were busy downplaying and undermining the issue, trivializing it because of their interests, because of their religious, ethnic, and their political biases. They were doing that. They did that indiscriminately, but you know, the United States government didn't just take information from people, decided to send delegates that went to the locus in Poe, the scene of crime, and were able to ask questions, interview people, women who lost their entire children, their entire families, okay, were interviewed directly, and the delegates who came got a full hand information of what transpired, and reported back to the United States accordingly before the Christmas Day attack happened. Now, to tell you how complicated the Nigerian case is, do you know that since after that Christmas Day bombing, a lot of persons have been going around with long faces, okay, you know, condemning and criticizing the American attack okay, into the attack of the insurgents and the ISIS camp, okay? Even though the government said they provided intelligence and the rest of that, I don't want to listen to the Nigerian government. I don't care what they provided or what they did not provide, because so they knew all the while that ISIS have a camp in Sokoto. That's what they're saying. They knew all the while and didn't do anything about it. But they were telling Americans that it's not a Christian attack; it's both Christian and Muslim and the rest of that. So these persons who are going around with long faces criticizing what America have done tells you that you have more Nigerians who are terrorist sympathizers. You have more Nigerians who are terrorist sympathizers than the number of actual terrorists themselves. And this is a complication. This is a very dangerous situation. In some other clans, people were supposed to be rejoicing over what has happened. But we have some persons who say that they have government appointment, and because they have government appointment, they have to sound in a particular way. They twist the truth and say, yes, the sovereignty. You're talking about sovereignty. You don't know that sovereignty have exceptions. There are exceptions to sovereignty. There are exceptions to the rules, the Geneva Convention and the UN Charter of Human Rights and the rest of that. There are exceptions, and these exceptions exist. So the Nigerian government collaborated. That's what they told us. But the statement released by the American president did not mention Nigerians' input in it. Okay, the Nigerian government have been explaining in different writings. I don't think I care about that. What I care about is that Americans are interested in this and they're doing something to save the lives of Christians and to save the lives of women and children in remote areas, for which the federal government have refused to do. And I believe strongly that, in fact, a lot of the insurgents were killed in that attack. So many of them were killed. But the people over there that own the caliphate and all that don't want us to see all that, don't want us to hear all that. But America knows exactly what they did. They attacked the root of it. And I think this will continue until we exterminate them completely.
All right. We hope this will continue. But Tochukwu, let's still talk about the Yelwata issue at this point. It took the intervention of foreign Congress members for us to raise issues like this. In fact, when the Yelwata issue first occurred, we didn't hear it until the Pope, the new Pope actually spoke about it, and that was when President Bola Tinubu, after lots of outcry, decided finally to visit Benue. And even when he visited Benue, he deliberately refused to go to the epicenter, which is Yelwata village itself, because he said that day it rained.
But before the video man gone there,
yeah, and so many other things.
For
yes.
videos.
So what's your take on this, and knowing that while we wait, our legislators didn't make no attempt, but it took the aid of a congressman and others in the United States to talk about it?
Well, normally in most countries of the world, you have power brokers, you have powers behind the throne. And in Nigeria, the most powerful power brokers, the most powerful powers behind the throne are from Sokoto. Sokoto is their headquarters. That's where the Fulani power brokers. So most of the people that are in power are directly or indirectly subject to the authority of this feudal obscurantist, the Fulani aristocracy. So Tinubu, whatever he's doing, must be pandering to them. Even before he became the president, he demonstrated that when the daughter of the leader of Afenifere was killed in, I don't remember the exact state or what date, yes. And people were saying it was Fulani headsmen that emerged from the forest that killed her. Yes. Tinubu's response was, he didn't, before investigation, but where were the cattle? Implicitly, if they are Fulani men, the cattle must be trailing them, or they must be trailing cattle. Okay? But Fulani headsmen can come out and kill people without carrying their cattle on their necks or or rearing their cattle. So he was pandering to his northern masters. No, it can't be Fulani headsmen because we didn't see a flock of cattle surrounding them. Well, the history of most religions of the world are not totally devoid of violence. If you read the Bible, you see violence that the Jews perpetrated on innocent people because, according to the Jews, they worshiped the wrong God or their deity, because the God we worship today was a Jewish deity that Jesus Christ made a universal God. Go and preach my gospel. How do you say? Make disciples of all nations. But it was Judaism. Jesus Christ did not find a religion. It was an offshoot of Judaism. But to the Jews, it was their God. So it was the Jewish deity that told them to go and kill others because they worshipped the wrong God. Christianity also has a history of violence, mass murder of the innocent, and many religions of the world. But the problem with Islam remains that as many religions over the years, let me use the word, became enlightened, started respecting human life more and more, Islam still holds, not all of them, still holds on to this violence. But there's nothing wrong with having violent, fanatical votaries of whatever religion. But the problem of Nigeria is that these men that are murderers, these men that go across Nigeria on a murderous binge, raping, killing, touching people's villages, driving them from their villages and possessing their villages, are not seen as renegades, not by the northern power elite, not by the president, not by the police, not by the military. All these institutions are working in cahoot with them to achieve a certain design. That's where it becomes a very dangerous thing. Yeah. Because if the institutions, if the law enforcement agencies and institutions are prepared to deal with them, it wouldn't have first gotten this bad. It's just that since Buhari came to power, Buhari was a Fulani expansionist. He didn't hide it. He was a narrow-minded Islamic fanatic. He didn't hide it. So what used to be, it started as headsmen, farmer clash.
Yes.
Yeah, Buhari empowered the headsmen, gave them, in line with Mieti Allah, gave them guns.
Allegedly.
You are a journalist, so you can allege. I'm not a journalist. And I don't want to be lectured on journalist 101. So he did call it alleged. I'm not calling it alleged.
Okay.
Yes. And then Tinubu had to pander to the same powers that be, and that's why we're here. So it's wonderful that Donald Trump got involved. Donald Trump has this evangelical Christian political support, and Donald Trump has this resentment for Islamism, for Sharia court, you know. So then he came to Nigeria and did such a wonderful job. We talk about sovereignty, but certain issues transcend sovereignty. Apartheid in South Africa became a universal problem. The whole world, it was this global economic and diplomatic encirclement pressure that destroyed apartheid.
Yes.
So in the case of Nigeria, sovereignty becomes a minor issue. It's an issue that has to be dealt with. The Nigerian government did not cooperate with Trump and co, but they were sidelined and they felt helpless. So to claim to be a part of the process, they say, oh, we worked in concert with the US government. We shared the intelligence with them. With all the intelligence you had, what did you do? You didn't share anything with the US government. Right. But I wish they continue with this approach and decimate these terrorists, because we have to have some kind of peace in this country.
All right.
Well, he has already said there will be more strikes,
Yes.
strikes.
So let's move on to Eko, John and Nicholas. I'd love to believe our connection is okay and fine now, because we really need your say on some of the things. So what questions do you have for him?
Okay, so still on the Yawata massacre, what's your take? Because we've heard from Barrister Evans, we've heard from Mr. Tochukwu. So we'd like to hear from you. What can you say about the massacre that happened during in June? Yeah.
Especially knowing that it's distorting on the food basket of the Federation, Benue State and other states that feed Nigeria.
Yes, I think that the Yelewata massacre is condemnable in all its ramifications, and such killing shouldn't be allowed. It should not happen in the civilized country under any guise. It's a complete barbarism, and as I said, it's condemnable. But the point is this: I think that the Yelewata massacre, what led to it? I mean, I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, very well, you are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The point is that what led to Yelewata massacre, the Fulanis and the headers, the headers and Fulani headers and farmers, what the source, the material condition that gave rise to that conflict, it has not been addressed. And you can be sure that after some time again, it's going to repeat itself. It's not just about addressing the symptoms. It's about addressing the root cause of the problem. Today now, nobody is talking of ranching. Nobody is talking of restoration or reforestation in the northern part of the country as a result of the desertification. Nobody is talking of the water resources. As a result of the shrinking of Lake Chad, vis-a-vis, the climate change, which has also had effect on some of these things. Nobody is talking of the poverty, the acute poverty that these people are facing, that has given rise to all this kind of a thing. You see, I think that when we make analysis of this issue, it's not always good that we are one-sided. Yes, in Benue is predominantly Christian because Benue is predominantly inhabited by Christians. The point is there is also cattle rustling. We have had a case where some of those cattle of the Fulanis have been rustled, they have been stolen. Here you get it. But the point is that in itself should not justify, that massacre, that murder that has taken place and that is still taking place, in Benue, in Plateau, in Taraba, even in Zamfara and the likes of them as a result of banditry and all that. The point is that there is a need. The government has not done anything to address all these issues. Yes, okay, I support every action that will at least mitigate all these issues. Sure, you get it. But the justification that is given to Trump's invasion or to Trump, whatever name you want to call it, attack on those terrorists, as good as it might seem, for me, it does not address the root cause of the issue. Sure, you get it. Yes, we condemn it. We are interested in addressing it because every life of Nigerian should matter, whether it's a Muslim, whether it's Christian, whoever, be it from the south, from the north, everywhere, human life should be taken as sacred. So it should not be seen as a one-sided thing. There is also an attack on the Muslim community. By the bandits, even by the Fulani, herdsmen too. The banditry in Zamfara, it has been said that the origin of it was as a result of cattle rustling and the likes of them. And that is what, recent history gave back to banditry over there. But the point is that for some, it's not just the northern ruling elite. No, it's the ways of our politicians, our capitalist politicians. The insecurity in the country. We have to have a holistic view of it. It has become a racket. The underground economy, as brought about by that insecurity, has become a huge racket by our political class in terms of award of contract for arms and the likes of them. So, as good, quote unquote, as the Trump intervention might seem, it does not address the root cause of it. It might just, for some times, they will just lie low. If the root cause is not addressed, you can be sure that over time they are going to metamorphose into other things. Before now, there was no banditry. It was Boko Haram terrorists. But today we are talking of banditry. You now swap. You now talk of ISIS. I mean, there are Alakwana. Just name them. Here you get it. That is that. Then on the Mokwale flood, please allow me to quickly.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
I was saying. Yes, thank you very much. I was saying that I'm also a direct victim as fish farmer. In fact, it's not just Mokwa alone. It was just that the Mokwa, the scale of the Mokwa, the flood was higher, and it had a lot of their coverage. Because of the structure calamity involved. In that, after that Mokwa's calamity, a lot of flood has happened. Sometimes in July or thereabouts, in Obolu, in my own local government, there was flood. Fish were taken away, and people lost their life. Over 1 billion worth of they were washed away, and nobody said anything. Government did nothing, and nobody had the fish. The point is, we are doing climate change is a big factor, but that is the reality. But climate change can be mitigated. The right thing is done by the government. For instance, today in the guidance, it has been said that over 20 million Nigerians have no access to the use of LPG gas, and that they have gone back to charcoal and firewood. What does that tell us? That's a result of that. Deforestation of a scale never seen before is happening today in Nigeria. And when the forest zone that is supposed to be prepared in zone layer that is supposed to mitigate the effect of climate change. So what happened? And even the basic things the government do, clearing water and things like that, they don't do. And not only that, it's not just about low land or people who are backward and things like that. Government needs to invest massively in data infrastructure. Government is saying sometimes that people are talking about this water. Why would people not talk about water? Not government also invest in housing, programs, low-cost housing schools for people. And there is the house, the archaeological agency, the meteorological agency, they see what they call weather forecast. And they are expected one expected word that can forecast accurately of the best accuracy weather forecast in the whole world.
All right.
And yet, the government has not done anything to address this issue. And that is what
All right.
you remember Adam's era. We had a flood in Lagos. In Meduguri, when the Lagos Dam and so were released, the university of South Meduguri was flooded and all that. A lot of people died. In case what has government done, they are not going to do anything. And that is why I've always said that these issues are extended. Now, you have a government that addresses the needs of people. We are going to let's tell you you can be told that I'm not a prophet of doom. So I can say without also that I make sure to keep talking of Lord.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Yes. Thank you so very much. Of course, we've discussed so much about a lot of things happened. That happened in 2025, but of course it's not all doom and gloom. We have it that from August to October, exactly, that Nigeria recorded a bit of good gains, and we have it from research that Nigeria's economy under President Bola Tinubu showed signs of recovery, with GDP growing to 4.2% in Q2 of 2025. And also we have an increased non-oil revenue, higher foreign reserves, and a stronger stock market driven by subsidy removal and exchange rate reforms. Currently, our reserves is closing at $52 billion right now in on Nigeria, which we have in other parts of the world, the United States, I love to believe. The barrister, what's your take on this? Do you think this analysis or this statistics that we have, especially coming from the federal government now, is what Nigerians will call audio data that we shouldn't take seriously?
Those are macroeconomic indices. The macroeconomic indices does not really affect the individual human person down the ladder. They are just economic projections and economic assertions that points towards growth, that points towards economic growth and stability. Okay, it does not in any way affect the micro situation. The micro situation, that is the situation that is the direct impact to the people. Talk about insecurity, talk about high cost of living, talk about transportation and the rest of that. Those ones are the ones that we want them to analyze. This one, they're analyzing the macro is for foreign investors. It's for marketing. Right? You're marketing your country. It's for foreign investment indicators. And the higher it's not an impact. It's not a welfare impact analysis, okay, or that looks at the current state of the Nigerian person in terms of his welfare and his livelihood. Okay, so we witnessed that at some point, but you know that even after that, the IMF still came out and gave after that period, they came out and gave another conflicting report against that. I think that was that should be in was it in June or so?
Yes.
Yes, it was in June. Yes, yeah. They came out and I gave another. They now talked about the fact that the federal government is still paying subsidy. You remember the World Bank gave that projection just immediately after this same issue, that and it went all around there. So the situation that we should look at is the issue of inflation. The issue of inflation, cost of living, okay, security, medicals, electricity, education, how this is faring as we speak, how the Nigerian person is managing his life around these indices, okay? This other one is how that projection they gave at that time, how well is it today now as we speak? So is this subsisting or that's broken down irretrievably? The true state of the fact is that there's no implicit growth in the lives of the people. So, and when you don't have that, it means that the economy is failing. Okay? Because the health of the economy is supposed to determine the health of the citizenry in terms of welfare and livelihood and living. Okay? But if what you have is proportionally detached from the physical exhibition and the lives of the people, then you can't really tie it together effectively. Okay? But the economists can give those records and talk about projection, how in the real sense of it, it's not at the macro level that is supposed to be viewed against the people's lifestyle and how they are able to subsist in the midst of these difficulties.
All right, very well said. But let's look at this from another vantage point, Etochukwu. I know lots of people might really not be excited on the leadership style of President Bola Tinubu and the effect of some of the things he is doing. He said his leadership style is long-term driven, right? And Nigerians should be patient to see the manifestation of what he has going on. But going back history, this is not the first time. In the 1930s and the 40s, during the Nazi party and Adolf Hitler, they presided over a strong economic Germany, even at war. Okay, today Donald Trump, has stifled its economy as we speak with all the tariffs and so. But people are not looking at Donald Trump like that bad man they should crucify. So don't you think we should at least give President Bola Tinubu some bit of chance to see what he has going on?
The American situation is not desperate. People can. The majority of Americans are comfortable very few are poor and very few are very rich. Like the billionaires, Elon Musk.
Yes.
Very few Trump, very few are in that class. The majority are very, very comfortable, buy their cars, buy their homes, go on holiday, and all that. So the American situation might be, cannot be compared to the Nigerian situation. Nigerian situation is an issue of hunger. People are very hungry. And if you go to villages, you see people suffering from kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is a case of serious deficiency, nutritional deficiency, that you only see in cases of war. In war, generally, people starve. But to be seeing kwashiorkor in a country like Nigeria, one time, American Foreign Minister, Secretary of State, John Christopher, I think it was, called Nigeria the only oil-rich, the poorest oil-rich country in the world, something like that. So this is the oxymoron, poorest but rich. The contrast is dramatic. And it's because a good chunk of our money has been stolen. One time British Prime Minister said that if the money stolen in Nigeria had been stolen from England or Britain, that Britain will cease to be a country. So there's been so much thievery. And whatever the president is doing and is showing some progress on paper is wonderful. I am not an economist and I do not understand the arcane of economics. But my concern is the improvement in the quality of life of the man on the street. So let's keep the colorful economic statistics apart. Has the life of the average Nigerian improved since the beginning of the Tinubu presidency? The answer is absolutely no. You have a lot of beggars. And some of these people begging is just that they fell on hard times, not that they are professional beggars. It's just the way things turned out. There's hunger in the land. I went to ShopRite to buy something, and I realized that ShopRite has closed.
Yes, it's closed down.
That's the one at
The one in
Ikeja.
Ikeja City
Yes,
Mall.
Ikeja
Okay.
City
Closed
Mall.
down.
Is that an indication of economic prosperity or an indication of economic depression? So those are the facts we need to look at, not the colorful figures. Sometimes the figures are cooked, but even when they are not cooked, let them translate to the improvement of the quality of the life of the average man. That's my concern.
Very well.
Okay, let's take this to Mr. Eko. I would like to hear your take on these, just like my host said, do you think we can still give President Bola Tinubu a chance to, to just keep up with this economy or keep up with our economy?
Give President Tinubu a chance to keep up with the economy. What does that mean? To keep up with the economy that is improving, economy that provides food, economy that provides free education, good healthcare system, good road, economies that makes people welfare to be top notch, basic necessity provided. Is that the economy President Tinubu has run that we need to allow him to continue to run it? I don't understand. You see, the point is this: the test of gold is fire. We don't need to be economists. Economic wizard or an economic researcher or professor before we begin to analyze all this data they are giving us, and that the economy grew by so and so percent, GDP increased. For the sake of argument, let's even say yes, it does increase, it does improve based on their statistics, their data. Bring it down home to the human life, to the condition of existence of the people, to the existential life of average Nigerian, the workers, the poor people. What is the minimum wage of the Nigerian worker? Up till now, as we are talking, the old minimum wage in some states has not been paid. The 70,000 naira minimum wage today cannot buy a 12.5 kg of cylinder in Nigeria. And you said the economy is growing. People can't feed. School fees has been increased. People are dropping out of school. Just, your guest in the studio talked of kwashiorkor as a result of malnutrition. Over 18 million children. I'm not sure of that of that accurate data now. But thousands of millions of people in the north have been reported by the World Food Program to be suffering from acute malnutrition as a result of poor feeding of food without the necessary nutrient and ration for the people. And the most vulnerable are the children and the women and pregnant women. Is that the economy we want the country to continue to run? The point is this, just as you said in your prologue, that the removal of subsidy, the valuation of the naira, has done more damage to the economy than any other thing. And that's why on our own part, as a socialist, as Marxist, as a workers' activist, we don't just analyze. We go further to demand that there is a need for a total reversal of all these anti-poor policies of the government. They are still planning to increase our burden. They want to tax the poverty now. People who are poor, they want to tax it, even when they are unable to tell us accountably what they have used the money. They wrecked in from subsidy removal, what they have used it for, which we did not see in our life. Is that the kind of economy we want them to continue to run? The point is this: we cannot continue the way we are. And the President Tinubu has subscribed to IMF and World Bank economic policies. Is their dictate neoliberal economic program that is implementing. And as long as he continues to implement all these anti-poor policies, this suffering, this level of hopelessness, cost of living crisis, rent, high rent, everything will continue. We were talking of the time of America of 1930 and 1940s and the likes of them. Don't forget, after the Second World War, and as a result of the incursion of the USSR to various countries, and the workers' movement all over the world, protests and everything like that, the US and Britain, they were forced to begin to invest public funds in social services under the Roosevelt government. That was during the New Deal. So in order to stem off, socialism or communism, as we might call it, from the USSR, it was during that era a lot of investment were made in America, in Europe, and don't forget, after the Germany, emerged from the war, there was what they call Marshall Plan, as directed by the US, where public funds were massively, invested in Europe and in Germany. It was the carryover of that led to the welfareist program of the Awolowo's government and Azikiwe and the likes of them, where they invested in social services. We had education that was free. The man in the studio was talking of when Nigerian university was top notch, where foreigner will come and attend school in Nigeria. The university teaching hospital, the university teaching college, university teaching college, that is now UCH. It was said that even the royal family from Saudi Arabia, they came there for treatment. And that hospital was meant to serve the whole of West Africa. This very year we are talking of, don't forget, that same teaching hospital was in darkness for more than 3 months as a result of electricity failure, because that facility, that college could not pay for the high cost of electricity, and it was in darkness. It took the protest of the students before there was semblance of sanity there, and yet electricity failure still remained a constant decimal in that institution, just like in every other facet of the economy. Electricity is nowhere. Government is. He said that if you want to know the development of how country develop in terms of production, you look at their use of steel. Today, Ajakuta steel company is still lying fallow, occupied by reptile. Government is not doing anything. See, all these figures they are just giving us is just diversion, or to just conform, to gaslight the mass of the people and divert us from our poverty. And we are not diverted. And that is
All
why
right.
we keep saying there is a need for a struggle and resistance. If not, this government, a pro-poor government, will continue with this is anti-poor policy, and people's life will continue to get worsened. The only ray of hope, quote and unquote, that we might see in 2026 is when they are preparing for election, when they will begin to bribe people with their tokenistic, money and food in order to buy, vote from them, because they have weaponized poverty, they have weaponized hunger. We can't. We are in youth high season now. In Boeing, just last week or thereabout, if I'm not wrong, Tinubu was giving rice, sharing rice, Indomie noodle to people to celebrate in a country that is endowed with the best of resources we can think of all over the world. And yet, people have to depend on charity, on philanthropy. That kind of economy.
All right. Yeah. So yes. So just to buttress your point, according to research, we have over 45 million Nigerians recorded as malnourished, and amongst that figure, 11 million children under the age of 5 suffer acute malnutrition. So this is how bad the situation is under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let's move on to November, and hopefully we conclude with December. Lots of things happened in the year in November, that is 2025. Amongst them is the abduction of the school children who started from KB and that in Niger. And equally, we had the issue of Nnamdi Kanu's final sentence, a life sentence. Barrister, I'd love us to maybe bring those two stories together: abduction of school children and Nnamdi Kanu's case. I'd love you to have your say on that. The barrister, are you still there? All right. So while we wait for barrister to join us, hopefully communication would be remade. Tochukwu, love you to have your say on that.
Yes, the interesting thing or the disheartening thing is that before the attack by the bandits, there was information, intelligence came to the governor that the bandits are planning to attack this school and kidnap the students. And the governor got the soldiers to the school. But just before the bandits struck, the soldiers withdrew. So it tells you about this complicity of the security apparatus in kidnapping and in banditry. They work hand in hand. So who withdrew the soldiers from the school? The withdrawal of the soldiers from the school enabled the bandits to kidnap the children. And it's all part of the same thing. That's why I welcome, and most Nigerians welcome, the U.S. involvement in this matter. Let them continue with the strikes and strike and strike and strike the daylight out of these murderous barbarians. We are sick and tired of them. And if nothing is done on a grand scale, this will continue because the Hausa Fulanese has a grand design to take over Nigeria politically and Islamize Nigeria. You had statements by people like Ahmadu Bello, former northern premier of northern Nigeria, that say that Nigeria is the estate of our great-grandfather Ottoman Damfodio. We will hold the Middle Belterners as, they say the word is as slaves or something like that, I'm not putting verbatim, and make it that the Southerners can never rule themselves. We will always continue to rule them. That was said in the 1960s, a few days after independence. But nobody gave blood, nobody gave body, nobody gave muscle, nobody gave energy and action to that word as much as President Muhammad Buhari. we have reused the resources of the federal government to advance that political and religious domination of Nigeria by the Fulanese. On Nnamdi Kanu's imprisonment, on February, I think it was 24, 1966, a man called Adakaboro, with his followers, declared what is presently Rivers State and Bayelsa State, the two states, declared them the Republic of Niger Delta. Ironsi was the head of state as of then, and Ojukwu was the governor of Eastern Region. The two men, the federal government, led by Ironsi, in concert with the regional government led by Ojukwu, fought Adakaboro, defeated him, captured him and his men, and jailed them and sentenced them to death. Okay? So there's nothing unusual in Nigeria. Actually, the history of Nigeria has established the precedents that a secessionist agitator can be sentenced to death. Okay. So sentencing Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment is not outlandish by our president. The precedents already established. Nnamdi Kanu, as far as I'm concerned, was deserving of punishment, was convicted, and is now in jail. That's normal to me. He has legal options. He can seek recourse. He can go for appeal and all that. But to me, it's not a big deal. Right. The man fought against the unity of Nigeria. The Constitution avows the indivisibility of one Nigeria. So if you go against the Constitution, you're breaking a law. He broke a law. He was arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. It's all normal.
All right. I would love to know if a barrister is still here with us. Have you joined us, barrister? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, beautiful.
I'm here.
Yes, so barrister, I'd love you to have your say on this Nnamdi Kanu's issue. It happened in November. He was sentenced on the 20th, I would love to believe, 20th day of November 2025. Tochukwu said that it is justifiable that he should be sentenced to death, just like Adakaboro, who was equally sentenced to death by Ironsi, coupled with Odumegwu Ojukwu, who was the governor of the Eastern region. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, Nnamdi Kanu's agitation for succession was not supposed to be met by the level of resistance that the government gave to it, except for the way he went about it. Because if you look at the African Charter on Women and People's Rights, it captures the fact that people within which Nigeria is a signatory to, by the way, people can self-determine, okay, and can start a process for secession, okay, except that the process outlined by the African Charter of Human Rights has nothing to do with violence and has nothing to do with forceful takeover and expression of grave violence and the rest of that. So it's not there. But you know, the federal government too did grave injustice to Nnamdi Kanu and the IPOB. First in 2017, when at the heat of the Boko Haram attacks and the killings across the country, the federal government proscribed IPOB and call it a terrorist organization. At that time, they just after then they got the Tucano jet. They couldn't get the Tucano jet because even when they applied for it, the United States asked the federal government to go first and label the bandits as terrorists, make that declaration and gazette same before they can get it. But they were quick to proscribe IPOB. IPOB are just an organization then that was going about its business without carrying arms and ammunition and the rest of that. So you can see that as that runs through. Now, when Nnamdi Kanu was finally arrested, he was in detention for a very long time. And one of the lawmakers from the East, Abaribe, did stood as surety for Nnamdi Kanu when he was granted bail. Now, whilst he was granted bail, he was in his hometown, okay, when the Nigerian military invaded his village, killed his parents, killed his family members, and a lot of persons through the Operation Python dance, you know, and he escaped. He escaped. He was seen in some places and others. After some time, the federal government did, led by the Melanie that is now in detention, orchestrated a way to get him, and he was arrested in Kenya, kidnapped, abducted, and extraordinarily renditioned to Nigeria in ways that are inimical to international laws, contrary to the principles that govern international laws and extradition. Okay, brought to Nigeria and was now labeled as someone who jumped bail. Okay, which was not true, which was wrong, because he didn't jump bail. You understand? I'm stating the facts the way it is. Okay, he was unjustly treated. His human right was violated, and he was left in utter distress. The case had to start de novo, even when the Court of Appeal had made expression that he be released. The federal government went on appeal, and in that appeal, the Supreme Court stated it clearly that it was irresponsible for the army to go and invade his premises when he was in bail and all that, and kill people and the rest of that. That was irresponsible. That the extraordinary rendition from Kenya was against the law. Okay? And then the charges preferred against him at that time when he was brought back were charges of events that the government even alluded to the fact that those offenses were committed outside Nigeria. But they persisted and amended the charge sheet. They amended the charge sheet twice, and then the Court of Appeal struck it out. When the Court of Appeal struck out the case, at that point, the federal government went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ordered that the trial starts de novo. Then that matter left the Court of Justice Binta Nyako, and was now assigned to Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja, who now had to the Nnamdi Kanu was now rearranged, okay, and trial went on to the point where he was to enter his defense. He didn't enter his defense. He took over his case by himself to administer unwittingly. And so the prosecution's case stood because there was no defense against the case of the prosecution in the matter under reference. In criminal proceedings, you are supposed to prove your case beyond reasonable doubt. The defendant, by the Constitution, is given adequate time and facility to prepare for his case. Adequate time and facility was given, but unfortunately, no defense was put forth because Nnamdi Kanu filed a preliminary objection. As at the time the court was set to write the judgment and deliver same, he filed a preliminary objection. But the preliminary objection was not heard. That preliminary objection ought to have been heard because preliminary objection can be filed at any point in time. I've heard people say, no, that the preliminary objection was argued to the Supreme Court. The one that was argued to the Supreme Court was when the Supreme Court made the order that the case start de novo. And at that point, when the case started de novo, there's no pending preliminary objection again. So he could have brought preliminary objection at any point before judgment, which he did. And the court still went ahead, to pass the judgment of a death sentence, and of a life imprisonment rather, against him. And this is how he found himself back to prison. From the prison, transferred to, after the conviction, transferred to Sokoto. From Sokoto, he has made some appeals or some filed an application asking the federal government to, asking the prisons to move him to a closer place to the court where he can make his appeal to the court of appeal in the case of that referendum. But that has not been done so far. So the judgment is one that is highly criticized, but it's a judgment of court of first instance. So that's not the end. There's a court of appeal, there's a Supreme Court. So these two courts, these two higher courts will look at the matter dispassionately and then come to a point. So I do not believe that that conviction was right. This is me saying from my conviction. I do not believe that judgment was right. I do not believe severe incarceration to this point, because there are human rights issues here. There are persons who said, no, his action led to the death of many persons. His agitation led to the of many persons and the rest of that. But the truth is that he's still under trial. Even at this point, he's still under trial. So let the court now determine what the issues will be. Stretched through to the Supreme Court. It's until the Supreme Court give the judgment on this matter where we cannot see the end of this matter has happened so far.
So this would also bring me to, to Mr. Eko and Nicholas. So what's your take on the issue of the surge in abduction and also the sentence of Nnamdi Kanu, life sentence of Nnamdi Kanu?
That happened in November
2025.
Well, number one, the arrest, incarceration, and sentence of Nnamdi Kanu without mentioning words is unjustifiable, and we strongly condemn it.
Okay.
Without prejudices to the legal finances and legal niceties, the Nnamdi Kanu state is political rather than legal and criminal. The right to self-determination is an inalienable right of every community, citizen, or nation. So it cannot be taken away. It's a democratic right. That Nnamdi Kanu is fighting for self-determination. It's not a crime. It's democratic right. That point has to be made. Another one is that Kanu administration and section
to break up Nigeria. Democratic right to be an armed robber. Be a democratic right to kill.
That Nigeria was it the making of the British colonialists, the British imperialists, who yanked this country together in 1914 during the amalgamation without the democratic input of all the subsets making up the country that becomes Nigeria today. They were never consulted. So when people begin to take of the we have to take it from that historical context. And we are happy that the Southeast, predominantly Igbo, has not been treated and rightly by this country over the years. The Biafra war, after the Biafra war, what part of the country suffered came up to this moment. But the question is, why is granted the right to self-determination? It's a democratic right, an inalienable one. We can't go about taking that right accordingly. And that is where we disagree with Kanu, that a right to self-determination should not be pursued by an individual on behalf of the many. We expected that there should be a referendum to find out from the ordinary mass of the Igbo people if they are actually ready to secede from the country, regardless of the reasons they want to put forth. And it shouldn't be, through violence. And it should not be through ethnic rivalry. And Nnamdi Kanu have also gone out to mobilize other sections of Nigeria. It was because of the Southeastern. so that there will be unity of working class and the poor. And as socialists, we made it clear that look, even if the Southeast secede from Nigeria under the present agreement, without all the injustices that the Southeast has suffered, even if they can't see them. The point is that the way the system is present on, and if that succeeded in the Southeast of the Africa, is still run under the state capitalist system to meet the needs for the profit of the few against the needs of the mass of the people that they are exploiting themselves of the way things are currently run present. That Nnamdi Kanu has been jailed today is still part of the ongoing erosion of democratic rights, mounting of freedom of association and expression by the tyrannic Tinubu's government. Convicting Nnamdi Kanu is to send a signal to every activist, to every agitator, every dissenter that want to go against Tinubu's and people's policies. And that is why we are demanding that Nnamdi Kanu has to be released unconditionally, and that the right to self-determination is a right that is not taken away from anybody. I am not a lawyer, but I'm happy the lawyer told us that in the UN Charter of the universal right of human whatever, I don't know what it's called now, that is embedded in that law. The right to self-determination is inalienable, and somebody should not be jailed on that basis. And don't forget, during the end of bad governance protest, Lenny and Michael Lenny and the 10 of them, we were jailed. We were arrested, incarcerated, and they were tried on the basis of wanting to divide Nigeria, on the basis of terrorism, on the basis of acts of inciting the public to create a division within or disaffection within the country. And that is to tell you how low this government can go. So jailing Kanu is not because he committed crime or because he legal whatever, he didn't meet it accordingly. It's purely political. When he favors Tinubu's tomorrow and he has any need for him, I'll be sure that they will release. Remember the Chibok case, the PG and the likes of that is how was the insecurity has become. The most annoying thing in all this and the most pathetic thing is the fact that this government under Tinubu actually contested or ruled power on the basis of wanting to fight insecurity, just like his predecessor Buhari government did. And during Jonathan's era, they were the first front, condemning insecurity during that failed Jonathan's government. And they made it believed that when they come to power, they are going to resolve the issue of insecurity. What was not as 10, and now US has to come in to start helping. And that.
Okay.
All right, thank you so very much. We do not have so much time. We've spent close to an hour plus, doing this review, and I think we have to draw the content right now. But just before we do that, Tochukwu, you were really you were going on what Nicholas was talking about. He said democratic rights of Nnamdi Kanu and lots of things. And while he was stating that, I was actually going through the historical facts of Isaac Adakaboro, like you rightly said, and how that he formed his little group, hoping that the Niger Delta, would succeed from Nigeria. And that was opposed by Aguirre and Ojukwu. Sadly, Ojukwu, who opposed the succession of Adakaboro, went ahead to equally succeeding, desiring to succeed.
Expecting an applause from the federal government.
Which was met yet again by the same federal government against it. But I'd love you to have your say on that, and let's conclude. If we take a look at 2026, what's your expectation from what we have talked about?
He talked about self-determination.
Yes.
People mix that up. Self-determination. Already we have self-determination. It's not a foreign power determining for us, like the British determined for us during the era of colonialism. Don't we make our choices? Don't we elect our officials? We democrats, don't we run our government, express ourselves and get the government to listen to us? At least technically. So secession is not self-determination.
Okay.
The southern U.S. wanted to secede. Why did the federal government of the U.S. then not respect their right for self-determination? They attacked them, fought them, and defeated them. In Congo, secession led to a war. In Sudan, in Ethiopia, in Vietnam, in Nigeria, Adakabor and all that. So secession is not self-determination, and they must stop deceiving Igbo youths with that falsehood. If the British contraption called Nigeria is illegal, or if you believe it's time for Nigeria to disintegrate, some say the agreement was for 100 years, which I don't believe. I don't know why they unified India, but didn't limit the unity of India to 1 year. They unified South Africa. South Africa was three republics, three Dutch republics, plus the blacks, held together by the British. They didn't limit it to 100 years. But let us believe that the Nigerian contraption was to last 100 years. Then it's time for for people to start sensitizing Nigerians that 100 years has elapsed. Therefore, Nigeria should disintegrate and get the other Nigerians to agree to it. But like I've said time and time again, no ethnic group of Nigeria can secede from Nigeria unilaterally. It will result to a war. So educate other Nigerians, let them see the need to separate. Then we go our separate ways peacefully. Like that happened in Soviet Union and Yugoslavia. And what do I expect in 2006?
2026.
2026, intensification of politics for the 2027 election.
Okay.
Tinubu is headlong into it. I mean, he has not settled down for once to govern. It's been politics. How do I get re-elected in 2027? Atiku is in there. Obi is in there. If Obi is in ADC and Atiku is in ADC, of course Atiku will win the nomination. His power of money. Obi is wealthy, but not to the level of Atiku. And maybe Obi will be his vice president, which will disenchant the disobedient. There will be between Atiku, two major political gladiators, Atiku and Tinubu. It's hard to predict. They are all similar. Atiku has his own problem. But that's what I see. The economy might not improve so much because a lot of emphasis will go into politics. A lot of money will be channeled into politics, and it will just be this economic crush on the average Nigerian. People will get poorer, people will get hungrier, people will get more, there will be more homelessness, and all that and all that. That's what I see.
All right, Barrister Barnes O'Feli, what's your take on 2026 as we draw the curtain?
Yeah, for 2026, I want to remind politicians that while they politic in 2026 for 2027, they should remember that there's governance. They should not throw the economy into shambles further by politicking. Okay, and for the electors, don't collect money to sell your vote upfront. Stop collecting money to sell your vote at any point in time. You see this poverty that is ravaging Nigeria. If you continue to ravage Nigeria until you learn to apply dignity to your human person, do not collect gratification just so you can vote people to come to office. You can live the way you are living, okay? The traditional rulers are hereby called to order to stop deceiving their subjects with endorsing politicians that you know they will not do anything to serve the community. You deceive your people to vote for them. Pastors, churches, mosques, religious institutions, marketplaces. When you know you have a crook, a thief as a politician, and you go mobilize people for them just so that you can get paid and the rest of that, you are working against your prayers. You are working against your dreams. Even if you finish doing all this nonsense, when you go, your children will still suffer for it. So we should be able to live decently, resist all forms of temptation, pecuniary temptation, in exchange for our civic responsibilities. We should do away with it. Okay? And we should brace up for 2026. It's going to be a great year. Positively, we should go into 2026 with high energy. Okay? Nigeria will be getting into 2026 before we hear. But no matter what the case is, eventually every country will get into 2026. There's a country that is almost close to getting into 2026 now. There's this country that used to get into 2026 before any other, the next year before any other country.
Yeah.
I think they're already at the verge. They're already at the verge of that now.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yes, they're already at the verge of that as we speak. So depending on your location, let's get into 2026 prayerfully, and let us do the right thing at all times. Nigeria is a country of particular concern as we speak. Okay, let us work assiduously to take down that toga, to take down that label. It's not a good label, so that they can open up the world again to us.
Yes.
To go to wherever we want to go to. At any point we want to go to it, and then God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you so very much. It's so important that we bring down that have happened in Nigeria from January of 2025 to the last day, 2025, still December 31st. Very so excited that we had the opportunity of saying our take and having our say. Thank you so very much, all the distinguished guests that we had. Barrister Vansu Feli, thank you as always for being here. He joined us from Toronto in Canada. Pastor Benga Ademujimi, who equally joined us from Lagos, and Eko John Nicholas, who joined us from Ogun State. Yeah. Yes, and Tochukwu, thank you. Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
I truly do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and for
we need to thank ourselves.
Yes, but just before we thank ourselves, let's say thank you to all those who have joined us. Wherever you've streamed from around the world, we'd love to say thank you so very much for making this a date. It's been a very fruitful 2025. We'll say thank you to everyone. Now, let's thank ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you so very much, Kenny.
Thank you,
for making 2025 a wonderful one.
And thank you for being a wonderful host.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for all you do, you know. And thank you so much to our beautiful audience at home, viewers. Thank you. And we hope 2026 is going to be a great year, just like what Barrister Ivan said. And we hope for, goodness.
Yes, we hope for better days, and truly do pray. Say, let's pray for our leaders. So let's continue to pray for our leaders, especially the O1, President Bola Tinubu, because if he leads us well, then every Nigerian will be happy. Maybe the United States will find ways to remove our particular concern.
Right.
Yes. Because that particular concern is really dealing with us. It's dealing with us a lot.
He must be giving our leaders a lot of concern.
Yeah, concern. Yes, truly. Because no Nigerian now is given opportunities of traveling around the world, especially with your green passport. You're being relegated to the background. So all of this needs to be cleared with good leadership, and that will start with President Bola Tinubu. We hope that, unfortunately, he's not spending the new year with us. He's spending it with some other people.
He should come and spend it with us. Just come and feel the
it's not doing it. So you can see what leadership. When they say leadership, you can see the meaning of leadership. Every president, I would love to believe, are spending the new year with their people.
You have to.
Yes, but President Bola Tinubu is doing that with outsiders. Very, very so sad. But that's our take for today. Thank you so very much for being part of our 2025. Next year would be a wonderful one as we start the day. We'd love to say thank you to you. Please do well to follow us. You can find us at enterprisetvnews.com. And equally, you can rewatch all that we have when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Ikwibike.
And I am Kende Bodrin. And this is us saying,
yes. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye.